Hey guys, if you're watching this, I'm sure you know what parkour looks like, and it looks like this. But when you start doing parkour, you might look like this. Right now, I want to show you 5 moves that separate beginners from people at the top of the sport. Here are some tips to help you not look like a beginner. Here is the first key to parkour. People who are experienced keep running after they do a movement. The first movement we are going to be doing is a step through. And this is how beginners do it. This is how experienced people do it. The main thing is to keep your momentum. When you're doing this movement, you want to have your chest forward. When I had my foot on here, I had my foot already through and I had my chest coming forward. Another piece of this movement is that you want to use your hand and your foot to push off the block, just like this. Beginners often lean their chest back when they do this movement. Another thing that beginners do is they leave their hand on the block after they do the movement, and it turns them 90 degrees. The last thing I want to say about this is you want to keep a sufficient amount of space between you and the block when you do this movement. The next movement is called a cat leap. You don't know how many people I've seen smack their face doing this movement. The goal of the move is to jump, grab, and hang onto the wall. Many people interpret that as jumping, grabbing their hands first, getting their chest forward. Here's the difference between when beginners do it and experienced people. The first thing is you want to treat this cat hang like a jump on the ground. When you jump onto the ground, you extend your legs so that you can absorb. You want to absorb this wall the same way that you do to the ground. You want to extend your legs to take the impact and then hang. I like to use my feet before my hands. I know some people like to do their hands and feet at the same time. As long as your face and your hands don't touch first, it's all good. The next movement is what separates the beginners and the pros, and it's right after the cat hang. This is called a climb up. Now this movement does require exercising some muscle along with the technique, but there are some ways that beginners do it that look unexperienced. The first thing I want to tell you is a rule of thumb in parkour. Never use your elbows or your knees on a surface. You never know if there's going to be glass or a bottle cap on top of a roof, and you never want to scrape those parts of your body. The way to get on top of here without touching your elbows is by using the momentum from both your arms and your knees. You're going to start this motion by extending your leg downward. Then you're going to use your knee drive to push your whole body upward. At that point, you're going to use your arms almost like a pull-up technique to get your chest over the top. The second part to this movement is when you're already in the front support position. Then you're going to use your leg to drive back, just like this. What that does is it helps your hips move backward. When your hips are far enough, you have some space between your arms and your chest, which allows your leg to come on. So I would use this to get my knee through to the side, or I can get my knees through to the middle. I recommend you practice by start working on your pull-ups. And also for the second part, I'd like for you guys to use a wall and really work on this hip movement and that leg drive. Yeah! Also guys, I have this shirt coming out really soon, so if you guys like supporting this channel, please pick one of these up. It's gonna come in multiple colors. Let's go back to the video. Again, this is what it's supposed to look like. If you keep exercising those little pieces of the movement, you're gonna have a really good climb up. The next movement are called strides. Beginners often look at this as just running, but there is more to the movement than that. From what I see from people who are inexperienced, they have their foot right underneath them and their chest forward. This is what inexperienced people look like when they do strides. The main problem with that technique is that you cannot be accurate with your foot when it's directly underneath you. You want to have your foot a little bit further forward so you can gauge where you're going. Also, you need to use these legs and your arms for the momentum. I want you to take a look at these triple jumpers in slow-mo. Notice how his chest is upright and how far his foot is in front of him before he takes his next step. This is how people with experience do strides. This last movement is one of the most important movements in parkour, and it's also something that can really tell the difference between a beginner and an experienced athlete. This is called the Kong vault. The goal of this movement is to hit the obstacle in front of you with your arms like a ramp. Here's how inexperienced people do it. That one actually hurt. What people without experience have a problem with is jumping to their hands. What they usually do is they have their hands on first and then they jump off of their feet. You want to have a good amount of space between you and you want to jump and have your hips up like a cat. That way you can have space between your arms and your chest so your knees can get through. After you get your knees through your arms, you want to get your chest forward and you want to go back into a running motion. If you're having a hard time with the Kong, another movement that's really great is called a monkey up. The main thing is you want to get your hips up and create enough space between your chest and your hands that you could actually get your knees through and your legs through. When doing this movement, you want to treat your back like a lever. And you're going to let your hips rise to a certain amount. Once they're here, you're going to actually use your arms to push your legs through. Hips, push. The Kong vault is one of the most diverse movements in parkour. You can use it for this, or you could use it for this. I hope you guys like this video, and whether it's your first year or your friends are just making fun of you and calling you a noob, I hope you guys take these tips and you use them and practice them and become better at this sport. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to always like, comment, subscribe. Later, skaters.